Breaking news today.
Please subscribe and then check notification box to get all breaking news alerts.
The world was shocked when news surfaced that a migrant raped and impregnated a terrified 11-year-old white girl, who miraculously delivered a healthy baby boy. However, despite hearing the stomach-churning details of the migrant's child abuse, the court acquitted him of all charges due to four sickening words. As already diverse Europe attempts to force even more diversity, once progressive nations are finding that, if given the opportunity, aggressive cultures will eradicate tolerant ones, destroying their belief that all cultures are created equal. Unfortunately, instead of thwarting these barbaric civilizations, the superior society is making excuses for such savagery. Disturbingly, the European courts are not only offering biased rulings and mild sentences to those adhering to inhumane cultural principles, they are deliberately allowing the most heinous offenders to escape justice entirely, believing their mercy will change centuries of ingrained barbarism. Of course, they quickly discover that these monsters will once again be dragged back to the courthouse for the same depraved villainy. In January 2010, a Cape Verde migrant was tried for the rape of an 11-year-old girl, which led to the young child becoming pregnant. The 22-year-old African suspect led the child to a secluded area of a park in northeast France in August 2009 before undressing and penetrating her while she begged him to stop. 9 months later, the young girl, only identified as Justine, gave birth to a baby boy, who was subsequently placed with a foster family. During his hearing, the migrant told the criminal trial court of Saint-Martin that the child was at fault for lying to him about her age, despite the victim's claim that she had told him she was just 11 years old. Incredibly, the errant jury found the migrant not guilty of raping the minor child, immediately acquitting him of all charges, according to Le Parisien. When reading out the reason for a full acquittal, the court explained that the now 30-year-old migrant was not at fault and that his actions could not be considered rape because when he penetrated the child, there was no coercion, meaning that he didn't use force when penetrating the victim. The migrant was acquitted on November 7 by a jury when they concluded that the child victim had the burden of fighting her attacker and failed her responsibility to properly resist his advances. In short, the jury determined that the child had literally consented to sexual intercourse with the adult male, although French law explicitly states that the age of consent is 15. Because of this outrageous ruling, the prosecutor has filed a motion for appeal to drop the acquittal and call for a minimum prison sentence of 8 years. Up to 15 years, a child must be protected. You cannot obtain sex in a normal way, for consent is not required, says prosecutor Dominique Lorenz. My client is traumatized, says the child's lawyer, Milor Habnek. It appears from this decision that a sexual relationship between a 22-year-old man and an 11-year-old girl is now normalized in our society. Disturbingly, the migrant's attorney, Samir Mbarki, absurdly insists that the intercourse was consensual and that it was actually the child who coerced the man to carry out a sexual relationship. My client maintained at the hearing that the complainant lied to him about her age. He says they flirted, said Mbaraki, claiming that the child convinced the migrant that she was 15 to 16 years old. The case is eerily similar to a recent Finnish trial in which a 23-year-old Muslim asylum seeker raped a 10-year-old girl but received a reduced sentence of 3 years in prison because the child did not properly object to the sexual assault. Amuleti reports that Yusuf Muhammadabad's charges were lessened from rape to sexual exploitation of a child since the victim failed to deny consent to the rapist. The judgment rocked headlines when the Prakan District Court stated that, due to the child's contradictory statements, she was unable to prove that she had sexual intercourse against her will. The court added that because Abad did not have to use forceful tactics to carry out sexual intercourse with the child, it could not be considered rape since rape is defined as forcible sexual penetration by use of violence or threats of violence. According to the Second Moment, rape is also condemned if the act is made by exploiting the fact that the other is unable to defend himself or to form or to express his will by exploiting the other due to uncontrollability, illness, disability, fear or other helpless state. Professor of criminal law Mehdi Talbanan explained that it could be considered that the physical superiority of an adult male against a female child is violence itself. Still, the court refused to consider that a 10-year-old child does not have the mental capacity, understanding, or legal ability to consent. Unbelievably, the Turkey Court of Appeals also rejected the child victim's accusation of aggravated rape, implying that the girl did not provide sufficient evidence that she was forced into sex against her will. The sexual assaults apparently took place between September and October 2016, meaning that the child predator could be out on the streets again in a matter of months if he obtains early release with good behavior. Thanks to liberal policies, Europe is submitting to barbarity in the name of diversity. Of course, this only leads to the most savage of cultures gaining a foothold in a battle that will forever change the face of the West. Share the story and leave a comment by clicking one of the buttons below. Follow us on Facebook at Mad World News.